everyone. I'm Emily Bach. I'm a product manager with the Ansible team, and today we're here to talk about why and how you should automate your security operations center with Ansible. First off, for those of you that might not know, I'd like to define what a security operations center, or SOC, is. A SOC is an organization or team usually operating 24/7 to prevent, detect, assess, and respond to cybersecurity events. There are a lot of ways they can accomplish this, but they all use a combination of clearly defined and repeatable processes, technologies, and teams with specialized skills. Let's talk for a minute about the current state of the enterprise IT security industry. Global spending on security hardware, software, and services has been rising dramatically for years and is expected to hit $150 billion in 2021. That's a pretty significant number, and the industry is showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon. The average SOC uses around 40 disparate security tools. With all that, you'd think the average organization security would be pretty strong, but from what we've seen, the average team is only able to examine around 5% of the alerts they get each day. On top of that, 57% of respondents have reported the time to resolve an incident has increased. 65% say the severity of attacks has increased over the past few years, and over half of organizations report a problematic shortage of cybersecurity skills, and there is no end in sight. Enterprise IT security grows more complex, more costly, and more essential every year. As you might imagine, one of the most common complaints in the industry is centered around a lack of automation. The tools are there, but with the scale and complexity of security requirements today, their teams simply can't keep up. This isn't a new story. Some of you may recognize this picture. It's Alan Turing's machine, the bomb. During World War II, Germans were encoding their messages using a machine called Enigma. Even if the British were able to capture their messages, no matter how good their mathematicians were or how long or hard they worked, it was impossible to break it manually. And since it was recoded every day, even if they could intercept and decipher a coded message, that encryption key would be obsolete the next day, and the team would have to start all over again. Alan Turing had the intuition to use a machine to fight another machine, fighting fire with fire, as the solution the Allies needed to decipher Enigma successfully. And that's exactly what we're facing today with enterprise security. Research shows that automation, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and orchestration are the factors that can most effectively strengthen cyber resilience. Our answer to this issue, our answer to this challenge is Ansible Security Automation. Ansible has a proven track record in automating and orchestrating infrastructure, networks, and the application stack. And over the past year, we've expanded it into the security realm as well. As we saw earlier, many organizations have the right tools and teams that they need. The missing piece is the coordination between them and the automation required to do so quickly enough to resolve security issues as they arise. The easy extensibility of Ansible addresses this by letting you bring together all of those disparate tools into a coherent whole. Our broad library of modules, playbooks, and roles help you support an effective threat response. We currently have solutions to automate and orchestrate enterprise firewalls, intrusion detection and protection systems, security incident and event management, and privileged access management, and we are always rapidly expanding into other areas. Ansible is not a security solution in and of itself. Many of you already have that set up. Ansible is meant to be the missing piece that allows your solution to be as effective as it can be. Now that I've given you the high-level explanation of what Ansible Security Automation is and how it can help you, I'll hand it over to Jamie Beck, our Senior Principal Product Marketing Manager, for some more detailed use cases.
Thanks for that, Emily, and that was very informative. So what we're going to do is start taking you through what one of our customers has been doing around security automation, and we're going to look at the Italian Army. So what's been going on there is they're working with the C4 command, which is responsible for the development, management, and security of these enterprise applications, systems, and network infrastructure. And so you might be thinking to yourself, I'm not a government organization, I'm not a military organization, how can I relate to this? It's two good reasons. There's some of it's quantitative, and that's also that there's the sheer size of what we're looking at. So C4 Command is accountable for the mission critical IT systems of the Army for the entire country of Italy, with a population of over 60 million people. Their efforts aren't just limited to the territory in Italy, but they also support international missions. They've got 190,000 members of their staff, including trained regular reserve personnel and civil servants. They also manage about 470 barracks, so you can count all of those as offices as well. And they also have 15 data centers located in various locations, and they maintain their own extensive private network. So if we look at this quote here, these are some things that we're thinking about in a more broad sense around security automation. But the first one is the interconnected digital world. Everybody becomes an operator only as strong as the weakest links. This really speaks to utilizing security automation to reduce human error. And another famous quote from the insurance industry is, you can't predict the future, but you can plan for it. So this is really thinking about security automation in the broader sense of making sure that your security automation practice is all buttoned up, and you're also automating things that don't need to be so manual, where mistakes can be made by humans. Why make these human mistakes when you can automate things and go ahead and have Ansible take care of some of these things for you and help you automate some of the things that you've already got in your security tech stack. So if we look at our security ecosystem, we've got all these different companies that we're working with. So I know a lot of people think that we just sort of work with IBM, our parent company, and maybe Cisco and some of these bigger companies, but we actually have integrations across the board in tons of different things like SIEM over here on the left, firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention, or IDPS, privileged access management, and endpoint protection. So Emily showed a slide earlier that kind of had those technologies bulleted out as the higher level technologies that you can automate with Ansible security automation. These are all the vendors that we're working with. And we'll talk a little bit to what some of the people were using in the Italian Army in this particular use case. So as we jump down to our security automation use cases, we're going to take a look at how the Italian Army in particular went on ahead and was able to do this automation. So the Security Operations Center is responsible for a number of things, including investigation, prevention, and response, and remediation of cybersecurity incidents. So what the Italian Army was doing is looking at investigation enrichment, threat hunting, and incident response. So we'll talk a little bit about how Ansible helped them by not only accommodating real-world legacy technology scenarios, but they also helped for automation to be adopted and for their security teams to become productive much faster. So as we move on to investigation enrichment. So we're basically chasing bits of information across the whole entire organization and the whole entire infrastructure to confirm that a certain event is or is not a real threat. Oftentimes there can be anomalies that look like a threat, and we have to look at that and we have to remediate those things. But then when the things that are anomalous and are also a threat, or someone trying to do something malicious on the network, we need to be able to both look at those things, but also have Ansible help you to automate these things. So Ansible security automation enables the programmatic manipulation of logs. So for example, users can send edge firewall logs to log correlation or analysis facilities like a SIEM, or you can bump up the level of the logs so that they can have all the information they need to assess an event as part of an investigation. So we're really using Ansible here to look at enriching the investigation. And then as we move on to our next use case, we're going to be talking about how we're doing threat hunting. So what that is a prevention activity where security analysts update their tools to identify newly released cyber attacks or malware. And as we know, that this changes on a day-to-day basis. I mean, something's coming out pretty much every day, and you need to have things running 24/7 to be able to identify all these new cyber attacks and all this malware that's out there. And as we see through some of the stats that Emily showed, these things are only increasing over time. So we need to be more vigilant about how we're using Ansible. And so the modules as part of Ansible security automation support signature manipulation to enable automatic updating of an intrusion detection system, for instance, with signatures coming from a security bulletin, and correlation searches and events automation in a SIEM can also create new alerts from actors or changes operated on other security devices. So as we move on to our final use case, which is incident response, we'll be looking at how Ansible can help you to automate all of these things within this whole entire story to actively stop a malicious activity. So let's say that you're using IBM QRadar to block a public IP that has shown an anomaly or may pose a security threat. Ansible Automation Platform can help you to automate this. We've got a lot more information on how to do a deep dive with Ansible Security Automation and QRadar on Ansible.com, as well as a lot of our other different partners. So as we wrap up this presentation, please feel free to go out to Ansible.com and look at all the different security integrations, not just the ones that we highlight in this presentation, but we have a whole lot of them that you can look at, and you can see which things in your security practice that you might be able to automate using Ansible. So what you can do as the final piece of this particular part of the use case of incident response is you can also look at how you automate a single sign-on password reset using QRadar and Syncope. So that's two things that the Italian Army was using together, and that will allow you to automate when things are happening on the network, resetting the password, making sure that the credentials that have been compromised. And this is how the Italian Army was using this. If they saw something being compromised out across their security practice, they have this to a point to where they can then remediate this and have that user or that machine reset those credentials. So finally, as we look at where you might be in the automation journey, so if we want to look at any takeaways that we get from this particular talk and this particular use case, what the Italian Army was doing is they were building a set of Ansible playbooks to automate many of the tasks that they were performing manually, which saves time and again reduces human error. So they moved from the left of the slide over into the middle, which is stage 2, when they started doing tasks in a larger, more complex workflow and distributed to a 24/7 response team across their entire organization. And what this did is it allowed for the decentralization of that part of the operation to ensure consistency of all of their actions and also give the people who are running the network more visibility. So what we hope that you're taking away from this presentation today is that you can move from the very beginning on the left side of the complexity of the graph of the beginning of your automation journey all the way through to institutionalized automation, which allows for you to be automating things across many different domains: security automation, network automation, infrastructure. These are all things that can be automated with Ansible. And we hope that as we went through simplifying your security operations center, that this was able to give you a good snapshot of both how you can do this as well as how one of our customers has been doing this. So thanks so much for coming to our Ansible Fest 2021 talk, and that will be where we wrap it up for today.